Hi, everyone. It's Jer, and welcome to Halfway with Jeremy Roden. This podcast is about the messy middle, those pivotal moments and choices that end up shaping who we are and our paths forward. Tonight, we are joined by Jon the Dad, whose relatable parenting parodies and epic 90s grunge-inspired skits are lighting up YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Let's kick this off. Jon the Dad, welcome to Halfway, and tell us about yourself and your background, how you got into this. But let's kind of start back when maybe you were a kid. How did you get inspired in media, creativity, music, all of that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a dad content creator here in Dallas, Texas, and I am I guess a creative by trade. I've been working in creative business roles for the last 15 years, but yeah, way back when I was a kid, I was the theater kid that also was doing sports. It's like the High School Musical. I never actually watched that movie, but I'm told that was the plot. He was into both, but yeah, so I, from age 5 was in plays at school and was in the choir. Was in like the Catholic choir at my church. All through middle school, started to, join the band, learn trombone. Then I learned guitar when my dad got me a guitar when that was my 13th Christmas. Had a terrible garage band in high school, all while still doing musicals and plays. I would even do these
as we all did, right? Those bad bands, we sound terrible. We think we sound so great.
Yeah. It was a lot of like pop punk. I would like change my guitar strings like once a year. It was horrible. I would do plays in the summer that had adults in them with kids and stuff. So it was like I started taking it a little bit more seriously. So I was always doing creative stuff, making whole, stupid videos with my friends.
I want to hear about your favorite character when you were cast in elementary school in the school plays.
So the first role I ever got was in kindergarten. I barely remember it, but I was Santa Claus. And the plot was Santa falls off his sled and a bunch of penguins find him. So I think I had to play like unconscious half the time. But I was the only kid up on stage that wasn't dressed as a penguin. And
did a teacher write that? Or was it something that was like
probably
official?
I mean, who knows who writes these school plays? Somebody's out there writing one right now. But yeah, and then when we moved up to Colorado, the first school play I got cast as Santa Claus again. And Surfing Santa, it was called. I still remember
Typecast
like
already.
On the surfboard dressed as Santa. I was like Santa on is like during the off season or something like that.
Did you feel like you were? I know you were a kid, but did you feel like you were making people laugh even back then, or was it something that you? Awesome.
Yeah. I was actually pretty shy. So I'm told. I mean, I guess I do remember that. My mom said, especially when I was very little, I was very, very shy. I wouldn't talk to people, and so I think it was a music teacher had said like to my mom, like, I think it'd be really helpful if you got him into theater and acting and music and things like that. And it was great advice because it really did. So even, I still remember like people would be surprised that I would be in these plays because I would be kind of quiet and keep to myself a little bit, but then I would be up on the stage, like saying this whole entire monologue or whatever it was. And obviously as I got older, they got more hard. I mean, like my senior year of high school, we actually did Les Miserables, and I was Thénardier and had to do the whole innkeeper song and all that. And they did it at the Valarson in Beaver Creek, which if you've ever been up there, is like a very serious
production
theater. Yeah. So it's like as I got older, I never wanted to stop. I just loved it. I loved the rush of being on stage, the rehearsals, memorizing lines. There's sort of like this danger to it. Like if you mess up, it's going to really suck. So you got to like learn your lines. To this day, I still have like some people, I guess, have nightmares of like going to school naked. My nightmare is like I'm at the play and I have not memorized my lines yet.
I think my first character was the Easter Bunny. And then back in which was a whole ordeal. I have nightmares from that character hopping around. But then later on, Pac-Man
you went full like,
yeah,
it was Easter Bunny for it.
And I had the costume. Yeah. I had the costume that was, I want to say it was partly my mom that designed it, but some other teachers. So it was kind of this collage of stuff. Had these like drawn on whiskers, which is ridiculous. I do remember that. But later on, Pac-Man became a big deal, right? In the 80s, right? Arcade and all that. And so then the same school wrote this play about Pac-Man. So I played Pac-Man and I had these, giant, they're just like real thick cardboard Pac-Man, cutouts and yellow. And I would chase these ghosts around, but it wasn't as cool as Santa Claus.
Well, Easter Bunny, almost.
Real close. Yeah.
Or the Tooth Fairy. So at least.
Yeah. I want to learn where music started to inspire you, because we both love music. We kind of listen to the same bands. I follow you on social media. I can relate to just about everything that you post. And I do have some questions later on about your favorite characters. But, when I got into show choir, my mother signed me up for choir and realized that I could sing. And I had a music teacher that was awesome. Her name was Pamela Martin in Oklahoma City. And she invited me to join show choir. So not only did I have to sing, I had to sing and dance. And so we did stuff like the Cotton Eye Joe and Side by Side and all this stuff. And it was a lot of fun. So you start getting these early influences. So what was that influence with music? And I was listening to rock and roll at the same time, but what were some of those experiences like that got you to the music side of things?
Yeah, it sounds like we had similar upbringings because I had my dad like pouring classic rock into my ears from a young age. My first cassette tape was Queen's Greatest Hits.
Oh, wow.
And I got, obviously, growing up in the 90s, like I was really into, I think my first CD was like Blues Traveler.
Mm.
And then I just like really liked 90s music at the time, rock music, things like that. But when we moved to Colorado, I got this music teacher in fourth and fifth grade named Mrs. Galizia. Her husband was like amazing jazz pianist, and she ran the children's chorale, I believe it was called, in like the Vale Valley where I grew up. So she was an elementary school music teacher, but she like ran the chorale through, I think it went into high school. And it was the same thing. Like we just got gigs at, I think we played at a nursing home once, but a lot of them, they were like, like I remember the Olympic torch came through our town on the way to Salt Lake City, and like
Oh,
our
cool.
corral like performed at, so we would get like some pretty cool gigs. And so we were just always, I mean, I never really thought about it. We were kind of like a band in a way. There's just, you're like always trying to get a gig, but it was more, there's 30 kids or something. And so this is obviously not like a, just choir in a school. This is like kids that show a knack for it and obviously want to like be
Yeah.
doing this outside of school.
Yeah.
And so there was like a little acting and definitely like performances and like moves you had to do. And sometimes, she was big on teaching us percussion instruments, playing the washer, like, I mean, like the triangle. I know they do that in music class, but I just like took it seriously. I learned hot cross buns on recorder, and like I wanted to learn that. And so I don't know. I just really feel like some people are just born with like, I have two kids right now, and like my son who's almost 6 is like, he likes music. With my daughter, like when music comes on, like she just like everything goes out of her mind. She's just got to dance to it, and she's like taking it seriously. You can just tell, like looking at her, like this girl feels music.
This weekend, I'm flying my 15 and 16-year-old to go see Oasis in the Rose Bowl,
Awesome.
which has been a lifelong dream of mine. I saw Noel Gallagher, I think it was last year. It was amazing. The influence that Oasis, has on my kids. I bought 2 tickets for my son Jack, and then Jude goes, "Hey Dad, I've been hearing you sing those songs and play those songs, and I want to go." It's amazing how the kids pick up on it. Jude will listen to music, but Jack, on the other hand, when he discovered music, and I was playing drums one time, he started playing the drums, then started playing guitar. And I was a singer first, then drummer, and then I started playing guitar later on. He just started picking it up and getting good at it. So every guitar that I've either built or bought, he's picked up and can just play. And there's a natural talent in that. And I'll be downstairs and I hear him playing a song, and then I'll know the chorus. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I say, "Hey, how'd you learn that?" And oftentimes they go on YouTube and they learn how to do it. But sometimes he's sitting there noodling and experimenting. And it's so special as a parent, to see that. What about your son? What's resonating with him?
Right now, he just tested for his green belt in karate and martial arts, and I feel like he might be a comedian. He's just like, he's also, I mean, he's not even 6 and he's almost 80 pounds, so he might be starting tight end when he grows up. I mean, he's massive. He wears size 12T for like 6, not even 6. So he's just a professional goofball, which was also, that was part of my personality too. So I don't know. We'll see if he gets the music bug too.
Let's kind of back up real quick. So you get to high school, you're still involved, in music and productions, I'm assuming. When did you take your first band seriously where you wanted to play? Because I know you play in a band now called Topanga, correct?
Yeah. Topanga is 90s cover band, but it was actually my band Armstead, and we had original songs and stuff, but we were just kind of burned out on trying to do original music. So we were like, hey, we love playing 90s and we don't want to stop playing. And as you probably know, as a musician, you get better gigs if you're a cover band anyway, unless you're obviously like going somewhere with your original music. So that was an easy switch. But yeah, I started a band in high school, and we played in some battle of the bands. We play at parties and stuff like that where we could. Most of the time we were just playing, and our drummer's dad was a pastor, and the drum set was at the church. So we would play, which is funny. We were like playing Blink-182 and Green Day in like this church. Like, that's pretty sacrilegious, but so I mean, we were like super serious, but I mean, like I was serious as you could be. But I didn't know it was a small town, so I didn't really know how to like get anywhere with it. We did like a CD with some originals and a lot of covers and stuff, but then we all split ways after college or after high school. And then that's actually, I had played acoustic guitar, but up until that I had a Fender Stratocaster and was playing a lot of like rock music and stuff like that. But then when I moved into a dorm, I had to switch to an acoustic because I couldn't be loud playing, electric all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then I really started crafting my acoustic guitar playing, which it's different. I mean, it's obviously different, but just the style, I learned to pick and started playing like softer songs, and very cliche. I got into like Dave Matthews Band, Radiohead, and some of those bands that like you get into in college, but I did. And so then I really opened up my pedigree of music that I was really interested in. It wasn't just like punk and pop punk and things like that. And I started listening to a lot of different styles. Nowadays, like I don't listen to the pop punk stuff as much. I do love it for nostalgia reasons, like Blink-182, Sum 41, Green Day, like that. It just transports me back to being 16 years old. And there's a time and place for that. But yeah, nowadays, I really like a lot of just like alternative rock, 90s alternative rock. But I mean, Tears for Fears. I don't know why that popped in my head. Like Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. That's like one of my favorite songs. Can't Find My Way Home by Blind Faith, which, I mean, you probably know that, but a lot of people maybe wouldn't, you recognize it when you hear it. But Steve Winwood, Eric Clapton, that's like one of my dad's favorite songs. So I kind of almost have like this song by Queen or this song by Led Zeppelin, a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers songs, some Dave Matthews Band songs, but even like some new electronic songs. Like it's just when anybody loves music, when you hear it, you're like, oh, this is like
you connect.
Doing something to me right now, and I don't know what it is. And it could be a happy feeling or it could be a sad feeling.
What about you and your wife? Do you like the same type of music?
When I was listening to Blink-182 and Sum 41 and Rancid and things like that, she was listening to Outkast and Missy Elliott and Ludacris and 50 Cent, and she was more into like rap and hip hop. And some of that I liked, some of it is like nails on a chalkboard to me. But when I when I put on some of my music from high school, she's always like, I don't think we would have dated. And I was like, I don't know. I will say, I took her to a Blink-182 2 years ago when they first toured, and we got seats that were like right to the side. And so we had this great view of Travis Barker. And
wow.
Travis Barker to her is she knows he's a drummer, but like now it's like Kourtney Kardashian's husband. And
I know that guy.
And like, honestly, the sound was like, I know the song so well because I just love that band. So like, but if you didn't know Blink's music, I don't know if you really could hear the bass and guitar. It was like so loud, but she was just staring at Travis Barker. She looked at me like 10 times. She's like, he's unbelievable. I was like, I know, that's what I've been saying. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
One of the greatest. And so, yeah, I mean, this is kind of a segue, and it was based on something you said earlier, but like when I was growing up, we'd be on a flight or a car ride. I was an only child. I had a Game Boy and I had some things, but you know what it was like growing up in the 90s and 80s. We didn't have iPads or anything like that. And I would put on like the Beatles one album, and I would make a conscious like thought in my head. I'm like, I'm going to listen to the drums when I listen to it this time. And I would just focus on Ringo Starr's drums.
Yeah.
And then I would re-listen to it. Sometimes I would repeat it immediately. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to the bass. And I got really good at just like, figuring out where all of the different instruments were doing. and you'd be like, I'm gonna listen to guitar, but then you're like, okay, but that's George Harrison playing that, and then John Lennon's playing this. And so from a really early age, I just started picking up on like just all that goes into a song. And I just almost felt like it was like a superpower. And I'm sure, some people listening would probably say, oh, they do the same thing. But a lot of people don't do that. They hear a song and they hear it for its whole.
Hmm.
And I think for guys like you and me, and a lot of people probably, like, you hear the different elements
Yeah.
of life. And there are songs
Yeah.
where I'm like, I like the song, but I'm listening to the bass.
Hmm. The band I play in, OKOTB, Old Kids on the Block, our group I've known for years through the St. Monica, Dad's Club, met a lot of them there. We have some amazing guitarists, but I've learned a lot just by listening to the various styles and techniques of the guitarists. It's been an education just playing with them for, gosh, 8, 9 years, something like that now. Because you do appreciate the subtleties of songs and those instruments in the background. And because a lot of people probably hear it as noise. I completely agree with you.
So in college, I started playing more acoustic. It's kind of funny to think, but I was like terrified to play in front of people for a while. So I didn't do an open mic night until I think the end of my senior year. And
Hmm.
then I did a year of grad school, and I was starting to do them weekly and getting up there and just learning a lot of different songs, which was really, really good just to learn. I used to do, especially when I moved here to Dallas, I started doing these like 2, 3 hour shows by myself. Crazy. I still
It
could
takes
do
a
that.
lot of
Like,
courage.
I could do that right now. Yeah, the courage, but also just like memorizing that many songs.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
just, I didn't use a loop pedal or anything. I didn't have anything else. So I would just have to like figure out, okay, this is a part where there's a guitar solo. So I'm either going to skip that, or I'm going to like do something kind of funky on my end to make it so that people, because as a musician, everybody, you're tuned into the crowd, and like, to this day, like, we'll learn a new cover song, and I'll notice that like 3 tables will get up to leave that they decide they're going to cash their, they ask for their check, and I'll talk to the band afterwards. I'm like, I don't think we should do that song again. I could tell the energy in the place died when we played that song. We shouldn't play that again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was playing by myself a long time. I had some original music, but like nothing. It was just so hard to get anything going in Dallas. Dallas is not a bad music city, but it's not like it's not like Austin. There's not a lot of options. And I got invited to play at this Battle of the Bands in 2014, and I didn't have a band. But about 6 months before that, I had been on a date with my soon-to-be wife. So we'd only been dating for 4 or 5 months, and I went to this jazz club in Deep Ellum, and this band was playing, and they were incredible. It was like jazz fusion. And I talked to them afterwards, and we were all about the same age. And I exchanged numbers with the saxophone player, and he used to start coming to my gigs and playing. And then so I asked that band, "Will you be my band in this thing?" So I got the bass player, the drummer, and the saxophone player to join me. And we ended up winning this Battle of the Bands with like some of my original songs, which was super cool. And so over time, we started playing, and we would play some original music. We have some on Spotify, Armstead. I think we have like 4 or 5 songs on there. It's just my last
Okay.
name. But we just never really could get anywhere with the original music, and we were all busy, and it just, we never like dove straight into like, this is what I want to do.
Hmm.
And then I got married, and then how it goes, and you're just like, well, I'm not going to be like the guy that's trying to make it, and also isn't paying his mortgage because he can't, because he's doing like open mic nights.
But you were loving it. I mean, you love playing together, you love playing the
Yeah, and
song.
we were getting gigs because like, so Armstead was like, that was the name of the band, but we were just doing like frat parties. We were playing at, we'd played at the Rustic, which is a big venue here in Dallas. Like,
Yeah.
so we were getting some good gigs, but we were playing a lot of, I would always say, from Stevie Wonder to Bruno Mars. Like, we were like all over the place. We had a booking manager, and he was like, hey, there was a 90s band that just like disbanded basically in Dallas, and they had a pretty good like hold on the 90s cover scene. They broke up. They had a funny name. It was like the Clinton years, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
And they were like, he was like, you guys should consider having a 90s offering. And so I think that was 2019 when he told me that. It's 2020. I was, I looked at my band. I was like, guys, I just looked, 70% of what we play is 90s music anyway. We should do it. And so we came up with, it was between Topanga and a few other like 90s things. And we went with Topanga from the show Boy Meets World. And then we started January 2020, and then COVID hit, and
I
We
think that's
try to
about the
get
time I saw you for the first time.
yeah, we got gigs here and there, and half the gigs were canceled trying to play through the pandemic. We picked up a female singer, which was awesome because before that it was just me doing these 3-hour
Yeah.
shows. And just so everyone knows, I play rhythm guitar and sing, and we have a really good lead guitar player now. And yeah, so anyway, so we've been doing Topanga for 5 years now, and now, I mean, we're playing at the Rustic for the Texas OU weekend. We kind of goes in waves, and we're getting some shows.
Yeah, it's about the fun. Like for OKOTB, we'll sit in John's garage and we'll just talk about songs. And it's amazing. We used to play in his guest house, and it was this little small room. And I actually brought in my acoustic drums one time because we were practicing for a show, and I think I made my one of my bandmates, Matt, deaf because he was right there by the cymbals. But when we moved over to the garage, now it's this amazing space, and John's incredible with technology and how he set everybody up. We use our inner ears now, but we'll sit around and we'll talk about what songs we like. And we play, I mean, you're focusing on the 90s. We'll play anything from the 70s all the way to, yeah, I'd say probably early 2000s. And we'll play country, rock, pop. And it's been so much fun, but that's what it is for us. We love doing it. And we'll go play birthday parties, various school festivals. We played Autumn Fest for a number of years for St. Monica. Legacy Live, which is a fundraising endowment for St. Monica. We play that every year, which is a lot of fun. But we do enjoy it. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing with Topanga. So how often are you trying to get gigs? You know,
Before I had kids, we were playing, and that's honestly even like when we were still Armstead, we were playing like 3 to 4 times a month.
wow.
Which was too much. And now, well, and then so for a while we were playing like 1 to twice a month, and then this year we were going in the year, and I was like, we have like 2 gigs. Like, what is happening? Like, some venues closed down, some booking agents like moved, for various reasons. We just like weren't getting booked, and so it was like, I don't know why I did Saturday night could not be the worst time to email people, but I like Saturday night I got a wild hair and I was up for like till like 1 a.m. and I Googled Dallas, Fort Worth venues, and I know most of them, but just I didn't want to miss anything. And I just found the email and contact of like all of them and was just like, hi, I'm Jon Armstead, Topanga, blah, blah, blah. And I sent our website, and I just did a huge like little email campaign. And now we're like have 3 to 4 gigs a month for the next 3 or 4 months.
And you guys are good. You're a lot of fun to see.
Thank you. Yeah. But it's just, how it goes. Like if you're not trying to like get gigs, for a while we had a booking agent and they were coming to us, but then it just started drying up. I've got like the people in my band are some of my best friends. We joke because we only hang out when we play music. We don't like go hang out and do other stuff. But about once a year, we're like, do you guys want to quit? Does anybody want to quit? Because we can stop. Like if half the band tomorrow was like, we're done, I'd be like, all right, I'm probably done. But we're just good friends, and we're just like, man, I just know I'd miss it. My bass player said that once. He's like, I just know if we quit in like 3 months, I would really miss it. And I know that about myself. I don't think we should stop. And so we might be doing this till we're into our 70s or 80s because we're really not. I mean, it's part-time. So, we can just keep learning new songs, and maybe we'll start doing more 2000s music and whatnot as we get older and further away.
But also, I think it's good for your health too. I mean, when we're playing music and everybody gets busy, and I'll tell my students at LSU is like, don't ever tell people you're busy. We're all busy. You got to make time for people.
Yeah.
There's always something, right? There's always something on the schedule. But we try to get a routine going with our band where every Thursday we're practicing, and sometimes every other Thursday. And there's people that travel, but even when people are out of town, we've got enough members where even if we have 3 or 4, people show up, we can still play songs. But one of our favorite things to do is to play these driveway gigs, and it's out in front of the practice space, and we kind of pull things out of the garage. People bring, their favorite beverage, and I'll cook a brisket or something like that, and people bring food, and we just play under the stars, and it's so much fun. But if we stopped doing it, we would all miss it. We would absolutely miss it. We still make time, and John's really good about coming back and texting the group and saying, hey, we're going to get him back in a routine. But we would absolutely miss it. But I think it's good for your health because it is fun. They are some of my best friends, and we play songs that people love to hear, and it's great. It's been a good time. You've obviously got this music, inspiration, this background. You were in advertising, is that correct? Was your job out of college? Tell me about your career way before any of this social media stuff started taking off. So Tell us,
Yeah,
tell us.
yeah. Yeah, I was my freshman year I was an international studies major and a theater minor.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Denver.
Okay.
Did not take me long to realize international studies was not the right career path for me, and switched over to business. My dad was like, just go into business. You just get a business degree, you won't regret it. But I didn't want to do accounting or finance, and marketing was like the creative one. And so I got a marketing degree, and I ended up actually getting a film production minor because I wanted to learn how to make videos. So that had always been like, there's music, but then I always like making funny videos.
Hmm.
Saturday Night Live was everything to me growing up. I would stay up late watching reruns of that or Conan O'Brien. I just loved sketch comedy and comics and stuff like that. So we were always trying to make funny videos, but it was really hard. You had to have the right cameras. There were no, our phones didn't have these nice cameras on them at the time. And so people liked getting me in their marketing group projects because I had access to all the nice cameras in the film lab, so I could make like ads for, sort of almost like extra credit and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I could go film and write the scripts and stuff. So I always just kind of had a knack for writing, and I wanted to write Super Bowl commercials. I personally think TV commercials now are not nearly as good as they used to be.
We were just talking about
And
that last night.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the talent of writing has just dispersed. I don't think they're all like, just like Saturday Night Live used to be like the pinnacle of comedy. Like, I don't think it is anymore. It's not bad, but you know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
think people now they're doing their own thing, and because they
Well, like
can.
last night, we're on the couch and we were rewatching part of the LSU game, LSU versus Clemson, and this commercial came on, and my wife was like who? I was like, somebody made the decision to approve that, and
Yeah,
that
a
is
lot of
awful.
people.
Yeah, a lot of people, but one person is really the big support, and they thought it was a good idea. But there's so much stuff on the internet now, and so much stuff on
Yeah.
TV, and I'm like, who approved this? This is
Yeah.
not funny. Maybe
Yeah.
it
So
is. Am I missing something?
no, you're not. I think we're all I think people should talk about that more openly, to be honest. Like, I think we all need to be like, hey, this isn't funny.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they used to be like hilarious for decades, and then probably like 10 to 15 years ago they started getting really, really sort of soulless and bad. But that's right as I joined the industry, actually.
yeah.
I felt like as I was joining advertising, I kind of was like, this isn't as like magical as I thought it was going to be.
Going back to Saturday Night Live, what was your favorite era? Because mine was the '90s. Dana
Yeah,
Carvey and Mike, all of that. That was
late
my
80s,
favorite.
late 80s and 90s. Yeah,
Okay,
all the way
yeah.
through the 90s for me, because you had Mike Myers and Dana Carvey and John Lovitz and all that in the late 80s.
Phil Hartman, yeah.
But then the early 90s, obviously, like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley, David Spade, Chris Rock. And then I thought, like, going into Will Ferrell and that whole, like, Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Anna Gasteyer, Colin Quinn, Chris Parnell, the guy that played Mango, I think his name was Chris too, Tracy Morgan,
Hmm.
like that was really like my bread and butter. But I would
Yeah.
watch so many of the reruns that I've like seen all the Adam Sandler ones and stuff like that. So between watching them on Saturday night with Will Ferrell and that kind of stuff, and Jimmy Fallon was good. And I personally think it was okay after that group. When you got into the Andy Sambergs and Kristen Wiig's, it was pretty good. And then after that, I couldn't watch it anymore. But
My friend Chris in high school, he had a TV in his room, and we'd be probably playing video games or listening to music or whatever. But he had this TV, and he always would start Saturday Night Live. Right when it was about to start, like 5 minutes before he come on, and you hear what band's going to be on because you didn't necessarily know who it was going to be. I wasn't looking at the TV guide or watching
right.
there's no internet like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that how quick it is for media to get on YouTube and how easy it is to access media? Do you think some of that instant gratification on your phone has taken away with some of the anticipation of some of those shows like Saturday Night Live and
Yeah.
just like Saturday morning cartoons, or He-Man back in the day? What character am I going to see today? Do you think
Yeah.
that
I
that's
mean, I
been a
think,
kind of an issue?
yeah. And I think we really started seeing that with Key and Peele. Key and Peele to me was the first show that, I mean, when I rarely watched a whole episode, and when I did, half of it, I was like, this isn't that funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the best ones would always make it to YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just was like, well, I'll just watch the ones that I see on, you know what I mean? And so you could say, oh, well, that's because it was better back then. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure half the Saturday Night Live skits nobody remembers.
Hmm.
You remember the good ones. But yeah, I 100% think that that's like, it's just hard to get people to sit down and watch for an hour and a half when they're doing something else. And at least for me, I know if it's that funny, I'm going to see it. It'll make its way onto TikTok or onto YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, because even just walking into, my day job, people have got their face in their phone, right? They're
Yeah.
taking in content as they're going from the building to the car in the elevator, and actually make a point not to do that. My
Yeah.
phone's in my bag or my pocket, and I just want to look around. Maybe there's artwork that I'm passing. There's people I want to say hi to, whatever. But I do think there's so much media out there. And here we are, me hosting a podcast and you doing social media, and we're adding to that big monster. But there was a charm to a lot of those shows. And I used to love the treatment of Saturday Night Live, the grainy New York City, the
Mhm.
lights, the cabs, all that stuff. I love that opening. And there were other shows like that. That nostalgia was certainly there. But when YouTube took off, and all of a sudden you've got everybody can create content, which is a great thing. I mean, people can tell their stories. There's so much talent. Back in the
Mhm.
day when I worked on Jimmy Neutron, we used to go to the site called Atom Films. It was an indie film website, and there was all of these short films that animators and storytellers would have their little short films, distributed. It was almost like a little YouTube, but it was all indie animation. It was great. There was another one, I can't remember the name of it, but it was accessible for everybody to publish something. And now with YouTube, obviously it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram. So tell me about when you decided, were you doing these advertising jobs and then you started
Yeah.
kind
I'll,
of
I'll finish my,
tinkering?
I'll finish my last story. So
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
quickly, and I'll try and not vamp too much, but
No, it's all good. All good.
yeah, so I finished with a marketing degree. I moved to Dallas. I interviewed at a couple advertising places, including like the Richest Group, which is the biggest one here. And I wanted to be a copywriter. I didn't really know much about it. Mad Men was like huge on TV at that time. It's still one of my favorite shows. It's like top 3 show for me. And I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't think that it was gonna be like Mad Men. I mean, the good parts of Mad Men, obviously. Like I love the Don Draper parts where he's
Yeah.
actually doing the advertising stuff. I
Yeah.
just thought that
Yeah.
was so cool. And um, but I met with the CEO of this pretty well known agency in Dallas. I won't say it, not that anything bad, anything wrong with it, but he told me, "Well, where's your portfolio? You want to be a copywriter? Where's your portfolio?" I was like, I don't portfolio. I didn't know you were supposed to go to college and like go through like this advertising track to either be an art director, a designer, or a writer. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
He's like, well, you have your master's in business and marketing, so like you should be in account service or media planning. And I was like, well, I just really want a job, so
And it's
whatever.
so funny how people just want to they want to typecast you
Yeah,
right then because you
and
don't have, yeah.
how many
So
people come
silly.
in there and say the same stuff, and I get it. Like, so I worked in account service for 10 years, and account service, if anyone's familiar with it, that's the Peter Campbell if you watch Mad Men, but that's the managing the relationships, managing the clients, you're managing the projects. You're the middleman between the brand team, the clients, and your internal team. So you're saying, hey, we need to make an ad and it needs to say X, Y, and Z, and you make the creative brief and the creatives all do it, and then you pitch it back to them. And when I was good at it, I'm pretty personable and was good at I'm not shy anymore like I was as a kid. That actually, I am glad I had that job because it did, and I was constantly presenting and just having to talk to people. And, so I feel like I really started coming out of my shell in my 20s when I had a job like that. Especially I worked at some places where our creative wasn't that great. So I
Hmm.
really had to sell our ideas. But the whole time I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to make videos. And I was always finding ways to kind of make funny videos like for the agency or for whatever it was, or sort of these they'd give me pro bono stuff so I could kind of be a little bit more creative. And I know I told you this, like that first job I had the COO sit me down, and he's like, you're great, but I feel like you're kind of all over the place, and I can tell you want to be like this creative and this video person, but then you also are an account service person. I need you like pick a lane because you're doing too much. And again, 15 years later, I look back and I'm like, I get it. Like, I don't resent him. I did at the time. I was like, man, what do you know? Like, I'm going to be me. Like, as a business person, I get like, he's like, look, this 24-year-old's like
We're paying you, to be here.
We're
Yeah.
paying you to do this and you're doing that. And to be fair, I was doing my job. I just was also doing these other things. And I was like, whatever. And I moved to another agency because I felt like they didn't understand me. And then I moved to another agency because that agency was a bad move. And then I ended up working at 4, and one was like branding and one was more focused on X, Y, and Z, whatever. So I did that for 10 years. And then the pandemic hit, and I got this really cool opportunity to go work for a company called BRP that makes Can-Am and Can-Am vehicles and Sea-Doo.
Oh, wow.
They're not jet skis is technically the name of the competitor, but they're jet skis. Sea-Doo, Ski-Doo,
Watercraft.
yeah. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but the job was actually in influencer marketing. It was not like advertising. So the job was to work with content creators, influencers, and celebrities and athletes to get them on our vehicles and get it on their social media and promote our products. It was amazing job. I had it for almost 5 years. I ended up moving up and being like the manager of the whole team and all this. They're really cool products. They're like $20,000 to $40,000 machines.
And what year was this again?
That would have been 2020 when I joined there, and I
Okay.
worked there up until 4 months ago. And so it was almost there 5 years. And yeah, I mean, it was cool. But like, so that was a huge moment for me because it took me out of advertising. It took me and put me right in the middle of content creating, being around content creators, I should say. And so all of a sudden I like started meeting these people that had, anywhere. Some people had 50,000 followers, but I worked with people that had 20 million followers. I worked with people that were on reality TV, like, Captain Lee from Below Deck and Ed Reed from the Baltimore Ravens. Like I had these like really random group of people that were my brand ambassadors. Yeah, Matt Pittman of Meat Church. Yeah, if you know Meat Church Barbecue, Matt Pittman was one of my brand ambassadors, and I learned so much from him because he was like a normal
I
guy.
use Meat Church. I love their products. Yeah,
but he
I've
was a
got my
guy that
favorites.
worked in business like the rest of us, and he just had this side thing that he just wouldn't stop working on. And now it's like a $25 million company, and like he quit his day job like 6 or 7 years ago. But so I saw what they're getting paid too, but I was just like, these people are like just being like, I worked with one girl that's a dancer. She's a dancer, and she makes TikToks and Instagram reels and stuff, and she dances. And it's not like you think of the TikTok dances where they're doing this stuff that's like super lame. Like she's a like professional dancer, and she was making a good, decent living doing this. And I paid her money from our budget to promote our products. And I was like, man, these people are like just like going and like doing creative stuff and getting paid for it.
When did some of the lessons just start to really click? Where like when you went home, okay, I've got some talent. I'm gonna start making my first video, and maybe you can tell the first story how you and I kind of met.
Yeah,
one of your videos.
That's what I thought of.
So yeah, kind of let's go down that road real quick.
I just kind of always thought that making videos and even my music was just a distraction.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a fun hobby, but that one day I would wake up and get over it. Basically, I'd grow up and not want to do that anymore. And I just never stopped coming up with ideas. But it was really, really painful, honestly, for a long time, like 10 years, where I had all these ideas and I just didn't do anything with any of them.
Yeah.
And then, so when COVID hit, I had just like started singing quarantine, 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 which apparently like 5 other people came up with the same song I learned after this. And I was like, you know what? Damn it. Like, I'm gonna do something with this. And it took a while. Like I actually got one of my musician friends who plays piano to do the entire song of Let It Be on piano, and he sent it to me. And then I recorded it, and I wrote these songs about being quarantined and stuff, and how this was like early quarantine where it was like everyone was watching Tiger King, and we were laughing that we were running out of toilet paper before it got like really messy. And then I wrote a script of like what I wanted to do, and I filmed a full music video, and I put it on YouTube and Facebook, and I think it got like 14,000 views, which at the time I was like, oh my God. But I was getting like text messages from like friends and family. And I just like, anyway, what Jeremy brought up was because Jeremy lived down the street and I knew he went to LSU, and I was like, does anybody have a tiger? Do you have a tiger costume? And he's like, I actually do have a tiger costume. You gave me a tiger costume, which like totally made the music video. Like, because then I was talking, there's a verse about Tiger King. And so I was like dressed like a tiger.
Greatness. I loved it.
And that was like a
Glad to
really,
have helped.
yeah, no, but it really was like a big deal. And that would have been April or May 2020, which is funny because I didn't launch Jon the Dad until January 2023. So it was like still like 2.5 years later that I finally like, figured it out. But it was that little seed, right? Life is a lot of seeds where you're kind of like, all right, I have something here. I remember I ran into like, I was at a friend's house and his in-laws were there and they're like, are you the guy that made the quarantine music video? So like there was some not being recognized in the street, but just like acquaintances that were like, aren't you the guy that did the thing? I was like, yeah, that was me. And they're like, that was so funny. You have to make
Funny.
more of those.
Yeah.
But I just like, I couldn't think of like, well, what do I do next? I couldn't, because I needed like every comedian I think, or a lot of video like content creators and stuff, like they need a home base. Like, and so like, what's your stick, right? So it's like for me, a dad creator, but like, are you the raunchy guy? Is it baking? Is it making fun of corporate life? Is it making fun of fitness life, or what? And obviously some of that's not comedy, but you have to have like a shtick.
Yeah.
And there's some creators I see out there where they make fun of everything and they're an anomaly, but like, and that's what I was missing all those years. I didn't have like a like home base. And it wasn't until I became a dad, which I guess in 2020 I already was, but it wasn't until I became a dad that I was like, well, what if I did a whole Jon the Dad persona and I could like make dad content? Because, as I became a dad, it was very painful becoming a dad for me. It was a huge lifestyle shift. I don't want to make it sound like being a parent was terrible, because it wasn't. It was great in a lot of ways, but it was just a big transition in my life. And so I was sort of like needed to like laugh through the pain. And I actually wrote a kids and parent comedy album in 2022. And so that's actually where I coined the name Jon the Dad. And I made the album, but I knew that if I just released it, that nobody would give a crap. So I was like, well, maybe I should like try and build this, Instagram channel or whatever. And so I just like, well, I'll just start doing skits. But I always wanted to be doing that anyway. But this was like, oh, well, this is why I'm doing it. So I started doing it. I started growing a tiny little following in the beginning, and then I announced the album, and it was just crickets. Like, some people listened to it and it was fine, and the album's fine. It's like Weird Al-esque. It's parody songs and stuff like that. But then I was like, you know what? I don't even care about this album, because honestly, it's not about albums anymore. Like, it's about like, if you want to do parody music, just make a parody song, put it on YouTube or put it on Instagram. Like, you don't need to do a CD, and I was thinking a little old school in the beginning. I was a little too traditional. I was like, no, I've got to make an album and people will go buy it at a store, and it's like, no, just be funny and put your funny ideas out there. So yeah, it was 2023 that I started it. It took me 6 months to get past 1,000 followers. I was like, this is not, after 6 months, I was like, if this doesn't pick up soon, maybe I need to stop, because it's embarrassing when you start, honestly. I'm dressed up like my wife.
The idea behind this podcast is, we're in the messy middle of our lives at any given point, regardless if you're young, early career, or older. But there's always a friction point or a pivot point that we have to take advantage of, and we have that choice to make, right? To move forward, and that ends up shaping our future and our paths. You just described several of those, going back to grade school to going through college and your career. Those were pivot points that you took advantage of. So then you create this video, this, tiger video. That courage, you dip your toe in the water, you get that first video out, you get past that 1,000 followers, and you keep pressing forward, right? You could have quit. You could have quit.
Yeah. So I think the courage came from, like in that fall of 2022, is when I was like, I think I need to do something. And that's when at that point I don't even know how old I am now. I mean, I'm getting well into my 30s at that point, and I'm just like, I've always wanted to make funny videos. I've always wanted to make music, but I've always wanted to make funny videos. Forever, for a long time. Like, when my high school teachers found out that I was doing this, I messaged with some of them, they were like, we're not surprised at all you're doing this. You used to do this in high school. I would make funny videos. Instead of doing a paper, I would make a video, and I'd make a video presentation. I'd add jokes in it and stuff. And luckily I went to a kind of a cool high school where they allowed that. But anyway, yeah. So I was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be so angry at myself.
Yeah.
And it was past, it's like, it's not even past anger. It's like, I just have to do it. Like I have to do it. And so, and I've heard the quote, I'll probably butcher it. I'm really good at butchering quotes, but it's something like, you'll only do the thing you're afraid of when the fear of not doing it exceeds the fear of doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like the fear, I actually, jokes aside, I did butcher that. It's usually,
No, it's a huge concept because
right.
you're in your head, like you get an idea, and I can relate because I have my creative projects. There is a time period where all of the negative speak and negative thoughts, it's like, oh, you don't need to do that. Do something else. That's real. So tell us about that. How did you get through some of that?
Yeah. I mean, so that for a long time, like Vine was pretty popular, right? It
Mhm.
was very popular. And I made like 2 or 3. And I just couldn't, like, because I was embarrassed. I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't want, I was in a fraternity, like I didn't want my fraternity brothers to see it and judge me. I didn't want, my work to see it and judge me. I didn't want to lose my job, because at the time, like people that were doing that stuff, I don't know if you get fired, but there's just sort of a stigma that came with it. It was like, you're not working, you're dicking around. I don't know if I can
Mhm.
curse on
You're
this.
you're good. You're totally good.
Yeah, that's not
No, because you have a leader. Going back to the leader you were talking earlier, I wanted to kind of touch on this earlier. Where you have like, well, John, you're doing these videos, but
I now know, actually, I know now I have ADD. I found out last fall.
which is a superpower, by the way.
You're right. But like, so I'm actually reading a book on it right now, but it was really crazy because we were, thinking, looking into it for our son or whatever. But then I was reading that. I was like, wait a minute, this is like not just like a few of the things, this is all of the things. And so I was really having a hard time. And as I was getting more into my career, I was having a hard time just paying attention
Mhm.
to the micro stuff of like in meetings. But I was like, if I'm not fully interested in this, like I just like don't
Yeah.
care. And so yeah, the superpower is when I care about something, but the problem is when I don't. And I'm like, I just don't, like, I'm not interested in
Why am
this.
I spending time on
And I was
that?
just
Yeah.
all over the place, and I got promoted and things were, I mean, I wasn't like, it wasn't bad. I just was kind of all over the place.
Have you ever read the book by Dr. Ken Robinson called The Element and then Finding Your Element? You need to read those books.
Okay.
So he's a very famous educator. He's since passed away. Um, Sir Ken Robinson. He also has a TED Talk. It is a life changing book, but I think you need to read both of them because it describes some of the things I think you'll probably connect with pretty quick based on your story.
One pivot point, and this is kind of, we're off chronologically here, but I didn't want to like bring the mood down too much, but the reason I actually moved back to Dallas from Denver was because my dad was sick. He had stage 4 lung cancer, like one day, just like January 6th, 2011, boom, he has stage 4 lung cancer. They gave him 6 months. He died 6 months on the date. So I actually moved back to Dallas in July 1st, 2012. I'm sorry, 2011, and spent time with him in his last like 6 weeks. And like probably a couple days before he passed away, he told me, he's like, I wanted you to pursue business because like I feel like that's safe. And I feel like I've always treated he was supportive of my music and stuff, but it was always, to him, it was a hobby. I mean, he's like, at some point you got to grow up and stop doing that. And you need to go get a serious job, very baby boomer, born in 1950, like as baby boomer as you can get. And he told me, like, again, a couple days before he died, that he's like, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been telling you that. You need to pursue your music. You need to be pursuing your talents. Now, as you just heard the story, I didn't do that right away, but it's almost like, because my dad was the most influential person in my life, and he did have sort of a control over me like a lot of dads do. So it was kind of like he gave me his blessing of like, hey, I see this in you. And like, he was seeing things pretty clear, at the end. So he's just like, I was wrong. And that was really huge of him to say. And so that was a big moment for me too, that I was like, like we try to pigeonhole people. My mom and I were talking about this the other day, and she said the same thing. She's like, people are always trying to pigeonhole you in something. I'm just not.
Yeah, define you. You're this job's going to define. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not that. Like, you know what? All the power to my friends out there and the people that are working in accounting and commercial real estate and stuff. Like, that's awesome. And especially if you like it, but like, it's just not me.
Mhm.
And I just felt like for such a long time, I was trying to fit in and trying. I would even like take finance classes in college because like I was, and I would do
I'm
terribly
gonna
in them
force myself to
I
learn this.
didn't
Yeah.
understand it. And I don't care. Like I don't, when I would listen to the finance stuff, I'm like, I don't care what amortization is. Like, I don't care. Maybe that's accounting. But I was just like, this is not interesting for me. And so that like, but I had this like constant battle internally of like, something's wrong with me.
Mhm.
I look around and everybody seems to be doing this fine, which we
Figuring
all know.
things out. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm looking around and everybody seems to know what they want to do. They seem to be able to pay attention. They're focused and they got it down. And I'm just over here like in a cover band while doing advertising, while moonlighting as a writer. I was
And then
like,
you have people going, "Oh, John, you're so creative. You're so creative. You're so
yeah,
good at this." Yeah.
yeah. And then it was also like, how's the band, John? Like, and people knew that I had a band, but I was like, it's just, that's still not enough. Like,
Yeah.
it's like my mark on the world is not going to be just playing other musicians' songs at bars.
Mhm. Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love it. We still have our band because we enjoy that. But like, I was like, I have to leave my own mark on the world. And so getting back to your question, like, it just became this like fire that was like burning bigger and bigger and bigger inside of me, where I was just like, I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I really do feel like it was a God thing that I got that job in influencer marketing, because it took me out of advertising and put me really close to where I needed to be. Right. All of a sudden
Mhm.
I'm around all these content creators and influencers and talking to them. And I'm like, oh, and I'm seeing that they're real people that bleed just like you and me and have dentist appointments and have problems in their life. And, and so like that was very important for me too, to see that they were just like real people and not just like, cause you see them on a screen, they almost don't seem real. And so I finally was like, John, if you don't pursue this, you're gonna, you are going to be beyond pissed. And so I started Jon the Dad. I started doing it. I had a couple go viral in the first couple months on Facebook, but it was on like my personal Facebook. So it's like it didn't help my accounts
Yeah.
at all. But I
Yeah.
saw, at least I was like, okay, so what we have here is the classic like tree falling in the woods. My content, people like it, but they're just not seeing it.
Mhm.
So that was enough in the beginning to be like, just keep going. And I would get a message here and there. I like some from some friends that I honestly, the whole thing is very revealing of who your friends are. It's cliche, but like, I had some friends that I thought were really good friends that like to this day, like don't ever really bring it up. And I had acquaintances that were like DMing me and being like, dude, I'm so inspired that you're doing this. Keep going, keep going. So I kind of had it from some people I knew in the beginning. And then after I had a video in July of 2023 where I'm dressed as a kid hiding in a department store rack, like how
Oh,
when you're
yeah. I love that one.
and so that was the
That's
one.
great.
So that I posted that. I'll never forget. I posted it. I made it. It was like super easy to make. I recorded the like over the mall like speaker on this like toy that my kid had that had a microphone on it to make it.
John.
And then please come. That's on a little toy microphone. I uploaded it and then we went over to a friend's house. I like looked at my phone an hour later and it had like 100,000 views in an hour. And I was like, now I've
Wow.
had a lot of videos go viral. I've never had this, like nothing has been more viral than this video.
That's
And
amazing.
then over like a couple weeks, it got to like 20 million views and I got like 14,000 followers in 2 weeks. I wasn't around a lot of people that did what I do. I was around a lot of people that were more into like, lifestyle or barbecue or, dance or whatever, people, or just like people that were celebrities, but also had a social media following. So I wasn't around a lot of like comedy content creators,
Mhm.
but I was following people. And so I was constantly, I still do. I like, sometimes I just go and I just scroll and I look and see what people are doing. And it pisses me off sometimes because I'm like, that's a hilarious joke. I wish I'd thought of that. But yeah, so I think the 6 months, like that big thing was like, just relax.
Mhm.
Because what I learned about that one was that it didn't take me very long. It is, I think it's a 12-second video. I learned how to green screen like 2 days before that. So that's a green screen effect. And I just like, it's just kind of like anything. Like you gotta, if you can get in the zone creatively, that's when they do really well. When you're forcing it and you're trying to be funny, my wife will tell me, she's like, even when you're trying to be funny, you're still funny. She's like, but yeah, but like magic happens when you're like, you somehow can turn this off. But I'm still chasing that high.
I wanna thank you for telling me this story about your dad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever knew, I lost my father very young too. I was
Oh,
in
I
my
didn't know
early 20s. and he died from an illness called amyloidosis. He had primary amyloidosis, and he died within a year. But when you're telling that story, I had a very similar conversation with him where, I was in art and design school at North Texas and I loved it. And I was a studio artist, but then I started applying it to, if you want to call it commercial art, advertising, but then it was typography. And then I discovered animation, and that's how I ended up getting interested in the film industry. But I did a video of, I'm going to, censor the name, but it's an eye drop company that has a very famous tagline of getting the red out of your eyes. So use your imagination there. And I did this animation of this bottle flying through space and dropping these eye drops into the great red spot of Jupiter. And then it made it look like Earth, like
Oh,
clouds.
nice.
And I did this video, and I had it on tape. It was all VHS tape. And I got to show it to my father the week before he passed. I saw a realization because he was worried about me getting into the creative field, starving artist. He was worried. He worked in medical, but my father was extremely creative. And it was a side of him that he did not talk about very much. He could draw, he could paint. I found a bunch of his drawings years later. But he was always building things and constructing things. That's how I know how to do a lot of that stuff, because I learned it from him and just experimenting. But it was a realization where he almost gave me permission. He's like, okay, my son's going to be okay, because he knew he was dying. I remember when he came home and he said, Jeremy, you're going to have to be brave. And it was the worst day of my life. And it was a realization where I'm like, I'm not a doctor, nurse, lawyer. I'm a creative. What am I going to do? But it was a huge friction point for me, where it was almost you're given permission by your father to then go and pursue your talents. And as a father now, I've got 3 kids, teenagers. One's a year from graduating at Arkansas. I've had to tell myself, let them figure things out. Let them discover these talents and embrace these talents. I'm going to guide them and still kind of help direct their compass a little bit. But I think that's important. I've had to realize that, talking about a pivot point in your career, and now the success that you're talking about with the views you're getting with all your videos, I think that's all related. I think that was the fuel that you needed, because it was a fuel for me back then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to hit 200,000 followers on Instagram probably in a couple weeks, and Facebook's not far behind, and TikTok, followers aren't everything, but it is a good gauge of just where you're at. Facebook's or TikTok's like 107 or something like that. And to answer one of your earlier questions, like, yeah, after about after the first year, I started getting some messages from people. Like, it was more, I think, people that saw that I was going somewhere, and I would get it was almost like coordinated. I would get these people that would just say, keep going, keep going, dude. I would get a comment, keep going. Now I get, at least once a week, I get DMs from people just like joking about something, but like I get at least once a week, I'll get a message on Facebook or Instagram, sometimes TikTok, of someone that's like, hey, I had like a really terrible week and I've been watching your videos and they're cheering me up. And I just want to say, I really appreciate it. And so I get that a lot. And that's,
Love it.
That's really cool. I mean, that's not something that I'm not like shocked that I would be having like a good impact necessarily, but I wasn't focused on that aspect of it. For me, it was more, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's like selfish, but to me, it was more like just getting this creative, like, out of me.
Sure.
But like, I do keep things PG on purpose. I don't cuss. I don't, we don't get into the weeds on sexual stuff or politics or any of that stuff, because I just feel like, especially nowadays, like, it's so nuts out there.
It's nuts. Yeah. There's a lot of noise.
There's so much noise. And I like the idea that if someone sees my face, they know it's going to be like a wholesome 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's good content. You have a great story growing into this, if you want to call it a career, this new path that you're in. But it's good content, because there is a lot of noise out there. I didn't start this to, okay, how many followers am I getting the first week?
Yeah.
I just want to focus on the content first and tell the stories of guests, and whether it's a celebrity or the quiet hero or the teacher or even the plumber, who knows? Is it a story that needs to be told? What is it about those learning experiences and those lessons along the way and the impact that you just described? So if it's one little thing and somebody says, hey, Jon, thanks for that video, I can totally relate hiding in the middle of the clothing rack, of the department store. I did that. It was hilarious.
Kind of figured out that my content generally falls into 2 buckets now. It's either relatable or it's entertaining. And obviously, generally, it's if something's entertaining. Well, if something's relatable, it's generally entertaining, but if it's entertaining, it's not necessarily relatable, right? But that's been really cool. I do some childhood nostalgia stuff, but then a lot of my stuff is just everyday parenting. And so I have 3 lanes, like content, because this is my marketing side. Like my content lanes are parenting, marriage, and childhood nostalgia, or just kind of growing up nostalgia. And every now and then I'll do something that's I made something last Monday about like when you go to the airport and you see the arrivals and the departures signs and
Oh
like
yeah, your brain gets all.
I'm arriving now, like, so that's like not either 3 of those buckets, but every now
Yeah.
and then I'm just like, but like that was cool. And I had like a lot of like celebrities commenting on that. So like Chrissy Teigen liked it.
I want to talk about one in particular because my wife saw it, and I can 100% relate to this because I definitely want to hear about these buckets. But your mahjong, and I'm probably
Yeah, the
mispronouncing that. My wife's
yeah,
tried
you
to
said it
get
right.
me into this. She plays with a group of moms and some of our bandmate wives, and it's a thing. But then you did that video in those characters. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
so true.
I mean,
I could
Instagram,
not stop laughing.
yeah, Instagram now is they judge people's content on how much it's shared. Like the likes are whatever, but how much something is shared or saved. And the mahjong thing, my wife has been in it, but she's really started playing a lot more. And now, we joined this new school and there's like a whole group of women that play it. And so I'm just, I just observe, like I see these things. And I think it was like my wife's a good creative sparring partner. She's like, you totally should make like a mahjong
Oh yeah,
video because it's like so many people are doing it. And once I learned or I started hearing the rules, I was like, that's insane. Like
yeah.
it actually it was hard to write that skit because the rules are already so nuts.
Yes. My wife was like, Tracy, I am not going to have the patience for that. I can barely walk through the living room when you guys are playing in the background, and my brain is like
No,
just
it's
getting fried.
ridiculous. Like, oh, and then we all do the Charleston and we do this, and you're like, what? Yeah. So but that was shared. So that got over 1 million views, and that was shared like probably 60,000 times. I think it was
Wow.
like got like 50,000 likes. So it was shared more than it was liked, but that's really hard to do. Like I
Yeah.
haven't done that a lot, but every now and then I'll have a video that's shared more than it's liked. And that's like the biggest win for me. Cause that to me is somebody saw it and they wanted to send it to their friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but like when I'm on Instagram, that's the currency is like sending memes and reels to each other and stuff. And so if I can I learned that after about a year, I was like, that's what I need to be doing. I need to be getting my stuff into the current the like silent current of DMs of sending people stuff like, oh my god, yes, this happened to me.
Well, it's like
uh
movie quotes, right? Back in the 80s
yeah,
and 90s, everybody remembers that really funny movie quote.
yeah, and you were
Right.
like king if you could remember like most of the quotes from, like, remember when Austin Powers came out and I went and saw it in theaters a second time so I could try and like memorize all the lines because it wasn't out on VHS yet. So we
Yeah.
would just
Yeah.
quote it and stuff.
But it's the same concept,
Yeah,
right? That you get that
yeah,
story. So,
yeah,
all right. So we don't, not to get too long into this, but I want to hear about these other buckets because you've got the mahjong, you got these one offs. But let's talk about the grunge and the music
oh sure.
reels that you're doing. But also, I want to get the parenthood stuff because parenting's hard. Where are those inspirations in those two categories of videos that you're doing? So you can pick which one you want to go down
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Parenting is obviously just from living it. My kids, like I had a lot when I started Jon the Dad. My kids were 3 and 1, right? So I was like smack dab toddler and 1 year old, and then they were toddlers at the same time, and so a lot of it was just like chaos at home, and yeah, I would just be I'm just at home and I just hear something or something happens. Or a lot of times I'm talking with friends. We're all talking about how our kids did something. And I'm like, oh, there's an idea. And I'll write it down. I'm like, there's an idea there. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then now I've gotten smarter as a creative or as a creator, right? In that in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to make funny videos. And now I have a little bit more of a system where I'm like, I can judge them a little bit better, like the idea. Rick Rubin, I've been reading his book on creativity, which is fantastic. Any creative person should read it. But he talks about how like all of our ideas are like seeds, and we don't necessarily get to pick which one is going to start growing. You just kind of
Yeah.
water the seeds, and
Sometimes it's got to sit. That project's got to
sometimes you
sit.
sometimes you could be really excited about one seed, and then you look at it 2 weeks later, and you're like, I don't even know why I was excited about this. And like I was very stubborn in the beginning, so like if I had that seed, that idea, I was going to make it.
Mhm.
and I wouldn't like kind of work with the universe. And so now I have my list, but like really I have a list on my phone, but really like there was always about 2 or 3 up here that are on deck. Like I played baseball growing up, so I have this like literally on deck of like those are the next ones I need to make. And
Mhm.
sometimes I won't make them fast enough and I lost my window. Actually, Rick Rubin talks about that, and I laughed out loud in the book because he believes that uh these ideas come to people, they come to us, and that creative people, artistic people, we're sensitive enough that we can actually like feel them coming to us. And but there is a time limit. Like
Yeah.
that if you don't act on it, like it'll go to the next person. And so this part in the book, he talks about how Michael Jackson, like he went and did Beat It, or Billie Jean, he like recorded it like in the middle of the night or something like that. But basically Michael Jackson, when he would get his ideas, he would record it as soon as he could because he didn't want the idea to leave and go to Prince. So Michael Jackson thought that his ideas would go to Prince if he didn't act on them,
It's
which
so
is, I
great.
don't know why, because like Michael Jackson's such a funny weirdo that I imagine that's exactly what he thought. But anyway, so with parenting, like I'm just like, I'll have something like kind of circling. I'm like, that's funny. Let me think on it a little bit more. And then just I'll wake up one day and I'm like, today's the day. Today's the day I'm making that one. So like the mahjong, I was like, I'd been thinking about it, and I'm in the right headspace. I sat down because I have to script them out. A lot of the time I can't just like
Yeah,
come up
sure.
on the fly. So I like script it out. And I'm like, yep, this feels good. Sometimes I'll write a script. I'm like, this doesn't
You
feel
ever
good.
ask your wife, like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" 'Cause
Yeah, I had her come read that one. She usually doesn't. Not I usually don't ask, but if I'm not sure, I'll have her come in. And mahjong, like I wanted it to so she read it and she was like cracking up, and she actually set the mahjong like table up for me, and helped me, like she gave me like all the outfits to wear and stuff, which that was a whole thing in itself because I actually pushed back on one of them because it was like Jerry Seinfeld when he has to wear that ruffled shirt.
I don't wanna wear the puffy shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of them was like so feminine, and I went and I started filming it, and I came back and I was like, Sarah, I can't wear this. This is like, I know I'm dressing like women in my videos sometimes, but like this, I don't know why this just feels like I'm crossing the line into cross dressing right now, and so I'm just gonna wear like a workout shirt or something. But yeah, and then with the other stuff with the '90s music and grunge and stuff, so yeah, so it was January 2024, and that's when I really started like cooking with fire, where my stuff really started picking up was the beginning of last year. I was driving home and I think it was a Pearl Jam song, and it was the one that's like, "Don't call me daughter, I feel too," which is like so ridiculous. Like Eddie Vedder's he's so great, but it's so like he doesn't have to sing like that. And like nobody's voice naturally comes out that way. Like he just like wants it to sound that way. So anyway, I was like, oh man, it'd be really funny if him and Dave Matthews and Hootie and Scott Stapp from Creed were all like talking to each other, but they're all like, oh, like, just doing that.
Do you
And
remember that one?
I'd
Yeah,
had like
that's a good one.
I had a big caffeine intake that morning. So I went home and I wrote it and filmed it. I actually didn't script out very much of it. Most of that is improv. And I think it did like 5 or 6 million views, and it got like 350,000 shares.
Wow.
And I was like, still, I've had ones that have done bigger in views, but just the shares alone on that was insane. And I did a whole series on it. So I ended up doing like 13 of these like 90s singers hanging out. And so I hadn't done anything like that.
The Crash Test Dummies character that you do, I
Yeah.
spit up my coffee.
That one's a funny one because he's just going, and I look like very Native American with my long hair.
Who's your favorite out of all of those? I know that
Yeah.
I'm getting you off track, but out of all those characters in that first category of videos,
My favorite was actually doing Adam Duritz from Counting Crows. I'll get people ripping on me all the time with that stuff who are like, they're very like realist, like he doesn't talk like that. I'm like Eddie Vedder. I almost said Eddie Vedder because I do Eddie Vedder's voice in like a foghorn, leghorn, Southern accent. And Eddie Vedder's from Washington.
is it?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I think it's really funny if the singer talks like they sing.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's just, and
It's
so
funny.
I made a long time ago. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, like if that's like my first instinct that I think's funny, I'm just gonna do it. So Eddie Vedder's like, I gotta go like this, and like, so he's just always talking like this, and like, it's just like, and people would be like, why is he Bobby Boucher from Waterboy? I'm like, I don't know, that's just how he sounds. But
It's so good.
when I did
So
Adam
good.
Duritz, the short dreadlocks,
Yeah.
which I also use for Rage Against the Machine. It's the exact same look. But for some reason, I just decided that he should always be bouncing when he talks. And he's just like, oh, say, friends. And he's just like, I called this meeting today because, and he's like a chicken. And I remember I like couldn't get through filming it because I was like laughing so hard. And I'm like, what?
I can barely do this interview because I remember the video.
I was like, John, like, why are you making him sound like this? And he was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Like, it's just like, and like, if you listen to Adam Duritz talks, he has a completely normal speaking voice, but it's just really funny to me to think that like, yeah, I don't know, that like when they stop singing, they talk just like that. I don't know. That's just how we grew up with stupid movies like that. But
It is so great.
I'm trying to keep like the stupid humor of our childhood alive because I feel like it's not around that much anymore.
Yeah.
And like the Saturday Night Live we grew up with, the Caddyshack through Old School with Will Ferrell, like that whole 70s through 2006, like was just like genius stupidity.
Yes. Jim Carrey.
Arrested Development, genius stupidity. Yeah, Jim Carrey, genius stupid.
When Jim Carrey started making Steve Carell do his voice, I could not stop laughing. I almost had to leave the theater because
Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Liar Liar, I can quote that whole movie. Obviously, Dumb and Dumber. Anything Farrelly Brothers, like There's Something About Mary. I mean, it's just so funny. It's just so damn funny. And they just don't make, I mean, I know all old people say they don't make movies like they used to, but they really don't. Like they make Marvel movies and they make remakes and that's it. And they don't make good comedy movies anymore. And again,
they take good stories where, like, oh my gosh, I'm excited about this movie. And then what I call it, like they take like if it was a restaurant, they fast food it, right? It becomes a fast food where it's cheapened and it's such a great story. Then you see it and you're like, they just rushed the filming.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but I agree with you. The humor, the writers back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, just genius. And this is one-liners. And I think that your videos, you were hitting on things that people can relate to. I watch every one of them and I cannot stop laughing, especially on the ones that you have these little subtleties, whether it's the voice or the edge of your mouth, the way that you're getting the voice of that particular character. And then just how ridiculous the costumes are in the wigs. It's just funny.
Appreciate that. My goal is for people to like be like, this is so stupid, but then still laugh.
Yeah. I mean, as it should be, because again, I try to bring as much positivity into this podcast as I possibly can. Because, we're all busy. Life is stressful. Things happen. We've been dealing with, one of my sons. In fact, this is Alopecia Awareness Month in September. And my son has been, sick since February of last year. And it has absolutely been the most challenging time of our family. And I'm going to be doing some stuff, on social media and the podcast just to raise awareness for it. But humor needs to be, in our daily lives. Every single day, we've got to be able to laugh. I try to get my wife to laugh, and I love her. She's amazing. She's completely transformed my life. Very type A. She has the ultimate resting bitch face ever, right? It is on another level. And I'll try to get her to laugh, and I'll say stuff that I think's funny. She's like, that's not funny. But I'm still going to try.
I'm continuing to grow, which excites me. So it's, I'll continue to hopefully make more people laugh. But like, I really feel now that like, even if I stopped tomorrow, which I'm not going to do, but even if I did, I could comfortably say the rest of my life that I had an impact on the world, because I really do feel like I've made millions of people laugh, like millions. I've had over 500 million views total.
That is so awesome, John.
And I'd like to think that most of them, they at least smirked or laughed when they watched it. So maybe I do get some hateful and angry comments, but that's fine. They're a very small percentage, but I do feel like, again, we were talking about earlier, like it's so crazy out there right now. And I really want people to remember their humanity and remember that we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
And especially, and like, not to make it like rah rah American, but like majority of my followers are from the United States. Although I do have some in Europe and Australia and stuff. Like we're we all grew up like watching the same movies and watching the same TV shows, and like we have a lot in common.
Common ground.
And
Yeah.
we're we go like, one thing I've learned, it's kind of shocked me because I get the same comments from people that don't know each other, but I just, people think the same way. And
Yeah.
I see like the similarities from people because I read almost every comment. I got to stop. It's not good for my mental health, but I read almost every comment. And people are like, we're all just so similar. And so what I try to do is I try to just tap into those either inside jokes that we all have. And a lot of people, they like, oh my, like my favorite is when I do something that like nobody's ever done before, and they're like, oh my God, yes, I used to
Yeah.
do that. Or like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one that did that. And then you realize, no, millions of people are doing that. That's amazing. That like,
Yeah.
it makes me so happy because I know that I'm like uniting people over a dumb joke.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's important because they're laughing and it is a connection that they're having.
And it brings their guard down, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't be so like, not saying people are hateful, everybody's hateful. Maybe I shouldn't be so like judgmental, or maybe I shouldn't be so miserable, or maybe I shouldn't be so uptight. Like, because yeah, that was actually like when I was in account service, like I was told in my reviews and stuff that I had sort of this disarming quality and that I was very personable. And so I noticed that like I wasn't like, I worked with some account service people who are good, but they were very formal and they were very type A. And I was more like cracking jokes and just like, so like, what are you doing this weekend? And like, oh, oh, you're moving, that sucks. And they'd be like, oh, you're like, you're not supposed to say that, and I don't know, I wasn't very like corporate ever. And so that's just how I am. And so I like to like bring that sort of spin into it, that when people watch my videos, they're like, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, life's not that bad. I can just laugh about like this dumb thing that we do.
Well,
um
you're always going to find somebody where you do something creative. There's going to be that one person that if their profile picture, if they're a stick in mud would be a stick in mud, that's their profile picture because
right.
they're never going to laugh. They're never going to enjoy it. But you are going to reach those people that are going to connect with the material and they're going to laugh. And so you just keep pushing forward. I think Rogan was talking about some of the negative comments. I forgot what episode it was, but he was talking, he goes, I don't have time for that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he's like, I don't have time for the negative comments. I got to just keep on doing what I'm doing. And I think you're doing that. And I think that every day that you wake up, first of all, I'm inspired by the amount of content that you're creating being a dad. Me having 3 kids and we're 2 years away from being empty nesters,
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stresses that happen at various phases of your life. And I think when they get to the teenage years, I want to help continue protecting my kids, and I worry about their future, and I worry about just the state of the world and how negative and how just crazy and just noisy things are. Things like laughing at a video, or maybe one day my kids will watch one of my episodes on the podcast and there's one lesson that they hear from one of the guests and they connect with. I think we just keep pushing forward and we keep doing what we do. And I think that you are going in the right direction. It's obvious. What advice do you have for maybe those people that are scared to push forward and to take that next step, dipping their toe in the water to get content out there?
I would definitely say to do the same exercise I did when I started this, which I talked about earlier, which is to imagine yourself, as a very old person on their deathbed. And if you continued your life as you are now, would you be happy about it?
Yeah.
Or would you be upset that you didn't do something? My wife's a very gifted painter, uh, and she is now about to full-time pursue painting. And I will take some credit for it. That part of that's because we did this exercise with her. Because I was like, Sarah, you've been talking about painting and painting kind of on the side, like some of the stuff she did in high school with watercolor. I'm like, it's like, I know everybody like brags on their loved ones. She's like really, really good.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I'm like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
What do you, well, she's more of the like, I'm the jump in head first. She's the let's talk about why we shouldn't jump in head first. And so now she's going to make a good, college try on it. And I think that, a lot of people listening or that you say this to might not have some like creative endeavor that they want to go after, which is fine too. I don't want to like shame people because they don't have like a hobby or anything, but I do feel like a lot of people are afraid to really be themselves or take a risk because the fear of embarrassment. And I will say, having gone through it, and I still get embarrassed sometimes, especially when I'm dressed as a woman playing mahjong. I do. When I cross dress, I'm a little like I press share and I'm like, oh,
There's a
God,
moment you're looking in the mirror
oh
going,
my
about to
God.
do this.
All right, well, that's out there now. But I'm gonna paraphrase and make it my own. But success is on the other side of cringe. I'll Gen Z it up because Gen Z thinks everything's cringe. Um, like, what do if you're going to get to a point where, again, like if you don't pursue something, it's going to gnaw at you. And if it's gnawing at you, it's not going to go away. And if anything gets worse, and like I said, I do think you get to a point where maybe you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s where you're like, well, you just missed the boat. And you don't have to be a professional at it, but like you should be doing what you want to be doing. And and that can be with a relationship, that can, I mean, you can apply that to a lot of different things, but like there's just so many people that are afraid to step a toe out of line if it's not cool. And I was talking about that with my wife today. Like I had this one friend in college that like, I'd be like, hey man, you want to go see a movie? And he'd be like, who's going? I'd be like, well, you and me would be going. Well, let me know if anyone else is going.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great friend. But but I always use that as an example because he, that kind of person was like, well, I'm only going to do it if like everybody's doing it. I'm like, but you and I could start the movement, man. We could go and we could get a group. And that's just seeing a movie. Like that's so many different things of like, I'm an only child and I'm, like I said, I have ADD, so I have that superpower. So I was just like, it's easier for me to just go off and do my own thing. Like I've always just been, I'm not like a lone wolf, but I'm just like, I've always just like, yeah, I'm going to go start a band. Like, I'm just going to go do that because I want to. But even Jon the Dad, because I was putting myself out into the internet and I've gotten some pretty terrible comments. I've had to block people. I have had one woman that like was DMing me, not DMing, commenting, saying I like hate my wife and all this stuff. And I've
dear
got
Lord. Wow.
weird comments and DMs from people, but most of it's good. But yeah, you put yourself out there and it's nerve wracking, but then honestly, most of it's great. And then you realize the impact you're having and you're like, wow, I can't imagine a life where I didn't go for this. Like I'm sitting here and I've got 2 videos tomorrow that I'm probably going to do. And I'm like, I cannot imagine if I was still at a job, because we didn't really talk about it. I know maybe next time I'm on, but like I quit my job full time 4 months ago.
Touch on that really quick. I do want to get a little bit of that because we can certainly meet again.
Yeah. So I started Jon the Dad 2023, the end of 2023, I started getting some brand deals. And then 2024 is when, again, it really started taking off and I started getting more and more brand deals. And then I ended up making almost as much money on brand deals in 2024 as I did my day job salary. And I was like, now that was a great year financially for us because I was like, got double my salary, although doing taxes wasn't fun, as we found out. But I was like, well, shoot, if I could maybe do this full time. And then, my job like wasn't really fun anymore. And there was just some very like, corporate stuff happening and they did like 2 rounds of layoffs and yeah, just the magic was gone. And I could feel like God, universe, whatever you want to call it. For me, I'll call it God, but I could feel God like pushing me off the cliff. He's like, you're like, it's time. Like it's not going to be fun if you stay here. And I was burning the candle at both ends. So I was like exhausted. I was like, I'm doing Jon the Dad full time basically. And I'm also doing this job where I'm like managing people. And I was working like 6 to 8 hours a day at that job. And I was like, I got to the holidays and I got sick. I was like, I can't do both of these anymore. And it was like a lot of praying, a lot of talking. And I was just like, you know what? I just got to do it because I know if I quit and I pursue it full time, then I can put more effort into it. And then that'll help me grow faster. And, I'm 4 months in and it's going, I'm not, we're still paying our bills and stuff. And we're not buying a brand new luxury car anytime soon, but like, we're making it work, and it's amazing. I don't have a boss anymore, and I don't have to get on Zoom calls that could have been emails. And, it's fantastic to not be doing that. And who knows, maybe I'll go have a job another day, but I really don't think I will. Like, I just feel like I was born to do this. And it's the theme of your podcast, but I look back on all the moments in my life, and there's so many that just kind of didn't make sense. And now when I pursued Jon the Dad full time, I look back, I'm like, this was all supposed to happen. This was all leading me, the film production minor, the videos I made as a kid, the singing, the parody music, being obsessed with Weird Al as a kid. I loved like parody songs. Like all these little seemingly random things have all finally meshed, and I've become like this person that I was supposed to become. And I didn't think it would be in my 30s. I thought it'd be in my 20s. But I think I see now that I had to become a dad, because I think I had to have the parenting. We talked about having your shtick. Like I had to
Yeah.
have like shtick. And for me, it's being a family man, a dad, a husband, and also just like a 90s music lover and a professional goofball. So yeah, so that's I mean, I don't know what my original advice was, but it's just more of like, I just feel like people are very scared of their own shadows, and they're afraid to be judged, or maybe financially they're afraid. But I always remember this Jim Carrey story he told at a graduation. I know it went viral like 10 years ago, where he talked about how his dad was a comedian, and his dad was afraid to pursue it. And he was like a janitor, I want to say, or
Yeah, I
he
remember this video. Yeah.
yeah. And then his dad ended up losing his job, and they were like homeless for a time being. And so his whole moral of the story was like, my dad took the safe route and still failed.
Yeah.
So why would you not just go for it?
Yeah.
Because you can play it safe, and then it can not work out too.
I was inspired just watching your story develop, but I could not agree with you more there, because I think people are afraid to take that leap. I'm one of them. I've always been involved with education, but I'm a creative. But I do think people are afraid to take that step because they are in the safe job, they're paying bills, all that, and that's very important, obviously. I also love what you just said about praying about it, because prayer is real. That has helped me and my family get through the challenge just this year, watching my 16-year-old deal with alopecia. And again, I'm going to talk about this later, but he ended up losing all of his hair in 3 weeks. He got mono and strep. It attacked his immune system, and within 3 weeks, he lost all of his hair. There are many times where I'm like, okay, what is my purpose? What am I doing? I was praying about it. How am I getting my family through this? Why is my kid suffering? But there was a sense of clarity, and it was about the time I was going to start launching this, because I've been talking to very trusted individuals for a while to get this thing out there. But there was I wouldn't call it fear. It was more of a hesitation. When's the right time? And one of my very just most trusted friends said, there's never going to be a perfect time. You know this, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for so long. Just do it. But my goal is to, again, to tell the stories that you just described, because when I first met you and then seeing what you're doing now, I wrote your name down 2 months ago. It was somebody that I was like, I want to ask Jon about this, whether he wants to do it or not, I don't know, because you're definitely getting that success. You're seeing that success. But I love the pivot points that you described, because those all helped align what you're doing today. And it gave you that confidence and all of those connections. And then you had all this material, right? All those experiences gave you material. And look at Office Space with Mike Judge and what he did with Office Space. And there's so much material. But,
right, which he couldn't have written that if he hadn't slogged away in the corporate world for a while, right? So,
yeah, it's a real
get some,
experience.
Yeah, people are you hit it on the head. It's like, what do you say? Like the best time to do it was 10 years ago. The second best time to do it is now, right?
Yeah.
And that I had enough fortune cookie quotes like that finally in my brain to one day to be like, all right, yeah. But it's true. It's just like, what are you waiting for? My dad died. So yeah, similar. My dad died when he was 60. He was almost 61.
52, 98.
Yeah. So like, and I'm late 30s, and that's like not that far away. And so I think that was almost not, I don't want to call it a blessing, but it's just something that stuck with me, that I was like, yeah, I don't know how many years I have left. And so I think I mean, I think the average first time business owner is 40, which makes sense. Cause I think you go your 20s, you're doing whatever, 30s, you're kind of like, you're either like doubling down, you're like, this is my career, or you're like, I don't know if I really want to do this.
Yeah. I'm gonna change about right now.
Maybe
Yeah.
do something else. And so, but yeah, like sort of the, not morbidity, but just like the knowing that you're getting older and you're like, yeah, I gotta like get going on my dream, because it's
Yeah.
not, nobody's coming to save me and just hand it to me.
There's so many people that are waiting for permission. Like
Yeah.
they've got to get the approval of somebody around them, whether it's family or a friend. And then that's going to give them the courage to go do it. And I think that you are a perfect example of somebody that is leaned in to what you're doing. And I think what you're doing is great. I think it's making people laugh. I just keep going. It's awesome. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. I absolutely love it.
Thanks, man. We'll see how far we can take this train.
That's great. And I want to give you another plug. So you're playing at the Rustic on what day? That's Texas OU weekend?
October 11th.
October 11th, Topanga at Rustic here in Dallas. Great venue. Go check them out. You will enjoy Jon and the band. They're fantastic. Well, Jon, thank you so much for doing this. Tell your wife congratulations on painting. She needs to check out Paul Chang on my Instagram. He's a guy that I used to work with at Paramount DNA Productions. Amazing oil painter.
She's already got an Instagram, but she hasn't shared it yet.
Awesome.
I'll be promoting the heck out of her.
Keep being that great dad that you are, and we cannot wait for the next set of content. Who knows what character it's going to be, but
yeah,
appreciate it. Enjoy your night.
You too.